Hello, my lovely peaches. So I decided to just actually make this a standalone. I was gonna add this to my mega video that I'm working on. I just posted a little picture of if you want to join me as a member, you can see a portion of it, because I did post a portion of it for members only, just the ending part. But all the rest of the video, where I'm going to be reading the first 37 minutes of the transcript of Wendy Adelson's police interview and my comments on it and all that. I'm still working on that, but then I thought I was going to just like add a couple comments to it with this, but then it kind of became its own whole thing. So that's all right. Give you something to enjoy in the meantime. And now I'm going to go finish putting the video together, and I'm going to have some work to do for my clients. So thanks again for all my new subscribers. God, it's so cold out there. So thanks for your opinions. I get a little heated because I'm a very big Jeffrey Lacasse fan, but I hope nobody's offended by me taking a strong stance on my opinion. And if you're offended, if everything I've said or if anything I've said offended you, then in true East Coast fashion, fuck you! That's what you say if somebody's offended. All right, enjoy the video, guys. Hello, my lovely peaches. How are you? This is my grandson. Well, I guess she's my granddaughter. My son decided she's a girl. Lemon. You'll see her belly up. Not really. In the video. You can barely see it. So I'm just jumping in the beginning of this mega video to add a couple of notes. And you know what? I might as well just pop in right here. I got a couple of comments. Thank you. Specifically about Jeffrey Lacasse, and people are saying, somebody said he was a mandatory reporter, but that's not how that works. Just because you work in the health field does not make you obligated to go running to the cops every time somebody says something weird. So him and Wendy are having a talk about whether or not after 2 years of dating, she would just go back to Florida, South Florida, and leave him. Okay, so he says, are you going to just leave? And she says, I can't leave because of Dan. Then she says, well, if something happens to Dan, then I can leave. And then he says, well, that's not going to happen. So anyway, are you going to leave? And then she says, well, actually, Charlie did look into hiring a hitman last summer. And he says at the time, he's like, okay, but anyway, he did not believe that that was real. He didn't take it seriously. Okay, so I just spent 3 minutes looking up what does a mandatory reporter have to report? A mandatory reporter is required to report if their client is in imminent danger themselves of actual harm, or if they suspect a child is being abused and in danger. All right, I'm looking a little more. In the US, you are not legally required to report knowledge of a crime, even if you witnessed it. However, if you have a good reason to believe that a crime has been committed, you should report it. Here are some other things to consider. The psychiatric patient. Unless a psychiatric patient confesses of an ongoing threat, then the therapist or psychiatrist is not obligated to report, period. And again, pointing out, in this situation with Jeff, he was not acting as a therapist. and there was no imminent threat that he was reported, that was reported to him that he could report. So fantasy, magical, wishful thinking, twisting of facts, taking something that didn't happen and trying to make it into something that did. I don't think that that's how investigations are conducted properly, period. A patient confession indicates a continuing threat to other people, such as a serial or a murderer. So when there's an imminent threat of a crime about to happen, then yes, there's an obligation to report, but not some off-the-cuff remark somebody said about something that maybe happened last summer that had actually no due date that he knew of. Yeah, it's going to happen 4 days later. He's not a mind reader. He's not supposed to be. That expectation is unrealistic and not how the law works. Medical practitioner. Okay, so Wendy was not Jeff's patient, and she was not reporting or confessing a continued threat. Okay, she made a remark which, yes, does actually prove, in my opinion, that there was a crime happening, but only because the crime happened. If someone confesses to a murder and they're not willing to take themselves, then they can. Now, there is a failure to report a felony, which is technically, failure to report a felony is a federal crime, but only if a person actively conceals their actual knowledge that a felony was committed. Failure to report someone's alleged confession likely doesn't fit the federal statute, okay? So none of these things apply, okay? So no, he was not required or mandated to report what he was told, because none of the things that he was told fits in these scenarios. And then when he saw that there was an actual crime, and then he realized, holy shit, what I heard was some type of confession, he told the cops. So are you just impossible to please, or are you just looking for somebody to blame who's actually innocent and a hero? I don't know. If someone says, I'm about to go kill X, then I'm going to go kill X tonight, then that is an imminent danger as well. Okay? But what Wendy said is not covered under the mandatory reporting. And from what I heard in Jeff's interviews, Wendy was not talking about murder all the time. And that when she made the comment about Danny looked into a hitman last summer, it was not a joke. It sent a chill down his spine. So to me, him saying that makes it clear that the other mentions he didn't take them seriously. And he also says he thought she was talking crazy stuff. Somebody else also says that when he was first asked about was there a price attached to that comment, he says no. Okay, but I don't perceive that as him lying. I perceive it as the more that he thought about it, the more details that emerged. And the fact that Danny was killed by a hitman and Wendy knew about it and Wendy was in on it, a hitman that was hired by a hitman that Wendy hired, along with her mom, her dad, and her bro. But all of them together. Nobody went outside of Wendy's knowledge and did this. Nobody went behind her back. Nobody did this on her behalf without her knowing. This was all because of her, for her, and because of her, and by her. Doesn't that kind of give you guys some clue that Jeff had nothing to do with it? Why would Jeff be sitting there talking about they're going to do, she said this and that, if he had something to do with it? Come on. That makes no sense. As an example, Luis Rivera, who did have something to do with it because he was the driver, he told all what happened, but only because it was going to help him. He was under arrest. He was in prison. He was going to be in jail for the rest of his life. So yeah, he flipped so that he could get a lighter deal. Okay? That does not compare in any way to a completely innocent man coming to a police interview, sharing what he knows, then coming back 2 days later, and then coming back like 8 months later, like, you guys haven't figured this out yet? He said, I've been thinking about it and thinking about it and thinking about it. I've been healing my heartbreak and my broken heart. I've been getting out of the fog of all that I was in delusion about Wendy. Things have become clear to me now. And so I'm coming here because I want this investigation to move forward. That's a hell of a lot different than I'm confessing from my jail cell to help myself because I'm facing life in prison. Which again, that can still be credible. Just because you're facing life in prison and now you're sharing things that you hid before does not mean you're lying. But I'm just asking those of you who are out here hating on Jeff, open up your mind a little more, use some critical thinking, and actually analyze. That's what this channel is doing. I'm analyzing like an investigator. I'm analyzing, I'm deep diving, I'm picking things apart. And yeah, I really love when people say comments like that because it helps me to gain clarity and forces me to look into it deeper. And, you know, if I want to actually have a real answer and not just be like, no, he's innocent. But no, he's innocent and he is a hero. And I think you need to stop shitting on Jeff, because thanks to Jeff, we have a lot more information. So I guess you could call that one of the, you know, shooting the messenger kind of thing. It's like people want to pin the crime on the wrong person. Let's get Wendy behind bars because that's the real fucking criminal here. Stop bitching about Jeff. Start bitching about Wendy. He said that one comment that sent a chill down his spine, which happened literally 4 days before the murder. So the idea that he was supposed to run to the cops and save Dan's life, and now it's on him because he didn't do it and he didn't realize. Come on. That's absurd. That level of mind reading, above human hero power is something you see in the movies. And if you're applying movie logic to real life, then it's going to seem delusional. Him and Wendy are having a talk about whether or not after 2 years of dating, she would just go back to South Florida and leave him. And her response to him saying that is, well, actually, my brother did look into a hitman last summer. And he said to Detective Isom, I just thought it was just another crazy thing that Wendy says because Wendy says crazy things and you get desensitized to it because she says crazy stuff. He also said that she pulled him into this whole hate train for Dan Markel. Okay, but I watched the 3 interviews, over 2 hours worth of 3 interviews multiple times. So a couple of times he says, oh, I hated him too. And then he says at one point, it's not like she was joking like, oh, I would just kill Dan. He's so annoying. Some sirens coming for Wendy. I don't think you can hear him. He also says, Jeffrey also says that the longer that things went on, the more he had a more realistic view of Dan. And that by the time they were breaking up, like right before they were breaking up, he actually started to think that, you know what, Dan's not so bad. Dan's calmed down. Dan is happy with a girlfriend. Dan's with Amy. Can we stop talking about Dan now? Can we move on from this? Okay, so whatever hatred that Jeff supposedly had, he made it clear it was because she she lied and said that he was abusive. And so of course he hated Dan because he thought that Dan was abusive. But the more he learned that wasn't true, the more he got a realistic view of Dan. So don't just cherry pick out little things that suit your narrative. Look thoroughly, listen to the whole thing, let it all soak in. Don't just pull out one sound bite that you think backs up what you're saying. If you want to have a strong opinion, I think you should have way stronger research and investigative skills. Okay, because strong opinions, in my opinion, strong opinions come from strong research, strong investigations, and taking the time to thoroughly, accurately, and truly look at things, not to just hear a soundbite and make a snap decision and then run with it and spin off a narrative that now you're just making up your own storyline and you've just created a whole plot that has no actual truth. All right, some more pretty notepad notes. Jeff also said that every single day for 9 months or however many months, there was 2 topics that Wendy talked about. How much she hated Dan and how much she hated Tallahassee. And he said he got sick of it, it got boring, and frankly, he was tired of it. So, did you factor that into the equation? Where's the irateness? Where's the I'm gonna BEAT and KILL him? No, it sounds like he realized Dan is quite a reasonable guy after all, and Wendy is unhinged. Wendy is an alcoholic who drinks her dinner every night. She's depressed. She cries sporadically. She lies. She's got lots of other guys that she's having sex with, and who knows what else. She's got other, emotional things. Like, Wendy is unhinged, and he realized that. Okay, and again, I talk about having strong opinions and that it in my opinion comes from doing research. Well, I've done research. You can look at my playlist. I've specifically done hours and hours and hours and hours of research, which is reflected in my hours and hours and hours of video, which are, I believe, in-depth, deep dives where I analyze lots of various things. So I'm not forming opinions based on a few salacious sound bites that somebody said in a 2-hour and 17-minute compilation of 3 separate interviews, okay, but rather much more deep diving. So again, show me the clips where he said those things. I'd like to see it. Timestamp it. I'd love to see. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. When I'm wrong, I'm wrong. And bang the gong. So those of you who think that Jeff had something to do with it, in my opinion, you are ridiculous. I talk about this later, but the idea that Jeff would have anything to do with a murder is laughable. It's downright silly. Like, did you spend 5 minutes listening to this man? There's not a murderer's bone in his body, in my opinion. And just because you're in healthcare doesn't mean that every weird thing somebody says to you, you have to go tell the police. And no, there would be no practice of healthcare and patient-client confidentiality, patient-client privilege, if every time somebody said a weird thing to a mental health professional that sounded kind of crazy or like, oh my God, did they mean that? Then you have to go run and tell the cops. There would be no health profession. Well, she did say to him in confidence, I'm going to tell you this in confidence, which elevated the red flag of it in his mind, which he mentioned, okay? But again, only because the crime actually happened, and then he was like, oh my fucking God, she said that. And it came true. Okay, so I'm just trying to get people to think. And she's, first of all, she was not his patient. Second of all, she did not say, I'm planning a murder. She didn't give him any specific, like, in order for you to go report something to the police, there has to be an actual crime about to happen. So somebody's saying, my brother looked into a hitman last summer. What's the crime? What's the crime that he's supposed to magically, mind-readingly be able to stop? So I also think that's another thing. Why do some of the people who are commenting seem to think that Jeffrey Lacoste should have been a mind reader? He should have been a magician, the ultimate hero who can read minds, make sense out of nonsense, and put everything together. Isn't the fact that he figured it out 2 days later enough for you? No, it's not enough for you that he went to the cops 3 times. And then one person commented, hi, thank you for your comment. Again, he didn't go on his own. What the fuck? He was out of town. When he came back to town, the cops came and got him. Whatever. Did he even know about the crime at that point? I just think, where's your passion for Wendy? Why are you writing a dissertation about all the reasons why you think Jeffrey Lacoste, who has been proven to be innocent, put that energy into how Wendy's guilty, because Wendy is guilty and Wendy was involved. Okay, so you're mad that Jeff didn't run to the cops because Wendy said, you're literally complaining that Wendy said, my brother looked into a hitman. Why didn't Jeffrey go to the cops? Why didn't Wendy go to the cops? Oh, because she was planning it too. So, think about that. Think about, you're bitching about why didn't Jeffrey go run and save the day? Where is your upset for the actual crime being committed by Wendy? All right, so there was another thing that I noticed that I wanted to mention, a couple of more comments. For this mega video, Wendy is the motive. Wendy is the motive. Why stupendous Wendy is the one horrendous star. Plot points, dot your I's, plop, plop, on the way to prison. Okay, so funny thing that when Detective Isom says to her, I know you have friends, you were there with them last minute, and she says, last minute? But then on the stand, she says that her and her friends would do last minute lunch. So it's like, that was funny, weird. Okay, so she spent so much time. So I recorded the first 37 minutes of it. Then I read out the transcript of that. Then I show it. And it's at the end of the video, hopefully, if it can save. If not, it's going to be a standalone. But the police interview is blurry. And because I ran it through TikTok to generate the captions, it's a little bit blurrier. But it's still very useful to watch, in my opinion, because the captions are there, and so you can really get the gist of what she's saying. Okay, and she spends so much time excessively talking about her crap, details. I personally would be so desperately anxious to get to the, well, how is he? What happened? Who did this? How did he get shot? Where did he get shot? Is he okay? Is there any chance on earth he'll survive? When can I see him? Like, I would be like, let's get this moving. She sat there for 5 fucking hours because I believe she was fishing for information. She wanted to know what they know. Of course, some of why she was there so long is because they wanted her to stay there. They asked her to stay. They asked to get her phone downloaded. Then at some point, Detective Isom says the phone is taking longer. I think they may have put a tracking or recording device on it, which, according to Jeffrey Lacoste, she told him when they spoke, I think, in August, and he was shocked by her callous narcissism and how she complained about having to cancel the commencement speech. But she also said she was paranoid that they were bugging her phone, and no, I think this was even before that she got a new phone, like right away. Like basically, as soon as they gave her phone back, she just went and got another phone anyway. Same phone number, but a different phone, because she was paranoid that they were bugging her. So some of the length of the police interview, which was July 18th, 2014, was 5 hours long because they wanted her to stay. But I also, like, there was some point where he was like, okay, you can call your parents. And she didn't jump up and immediately call them. She went through this whole long fucking thing. And she had to, like, basically say that they were, she thought that she suspected them, is what she said there. She never ran off. Like, it was just crazy. And the thing is, she was not. So when you have your Miranda rights read, what was crazy is that she had asked, like, do you need to read me my Miranda rights when they were going to take her phone? And he was like, I can read them if you want. Miranda rights is when you're under arrest or when you're being held for an interrogation against your will. Like, you're being held. You can't just, like, freely leave. So she was trying to see if she was under arrest or if she was being held as an interrogation, and she wasn't. Okay? And now there was a point where I mentioned that Isom had said to Jeffrey, no, you didn't do anything wrong. Okay. And I feel like that's different than when he was saying to Wendy, oh no, you're doing great. Oh, I have no reason to suspect you at this time of this incident of this time. Like, they're different because Jeff had been proven to be innocent. Okay. So Detective Isom is saying that to an innocent man in that case, but then in the case of Wendy, I got a text, I got distracted. In the case of all the nice things he was saying to Wendy, I believe it's because that's how you properly investigate someone, and I talk about that more in the video to come. So I will get to more of the reasons why the evidence that has not had Wendy arrested yet, but yet I feel does prove her absolute, like, she is the star. Wendy is the star. Take Wendy out of this equation and there is no crime. Nothing happens if Wendy's not in there. Absolutely no murder happens if Wendy is taken out of this situation. That's my opinion. In my next video, I'll be discussing it much further. But all of the evidence driving past the scene of the crime and benefiting from it the most, all of the things in court papers, that's evidence. That's not just speculation from somebody on YouTube. The fact that she was going to have to show financial documentation to prove whether or not she'd stolen probably more than $500,000. And all of the things, like, these were real issues that her and her mom and her parents were facing, that she stopped having to face. Like, there's actual financial benefits. She had full unencumbered custody of her children, which was up until the point of the murder an extremely contentious and litigious battle in court. She was fighting a lawyer who actually cared about doing the right thing the right way, who cared about whether or not her mom said awful things about him to his babies, which they came back and repeated. And I never did get to say this somewhere. I'm going to pop this thought in here because it just popped up. like Charlie Adelson testified that a 5-year-old can't repeat, or a 4-year-old can't repeat. You know, grandma says she hates you. Grandma says you're taking her sunshines away. Grandma says Abba is stupid. And Charlie's testifying that no, a 5-year-old can't do that. But then on a jailhouse call with Bree, the mother of his 5-year-old, he's talking about how his son is basically parroting whatever he heard. I don't remember what it was that his son was repeating, but so there he is as a dad talking to the mom about how, oh, the son is just repeating what he heard. But now on the stand, you don't know that 5-year-olds can do that, or 4-year-olds, or even 3-year-olds, or even 2-year-olds. I mean, have you ever had interaction with a kid? Anyway, so I'm not going to get into all the reasons why the evidence that Wendy's guilty in this video, but, you know, I'm mentioning that the evidence against Wendy, the evidence, and then what's your evidence against Jeff? Your evidence against Jeff is what? That Wendy told him something terrible, that he came and told the cops when it was relevant? That Jeff was angry against Dan until he realized that Wendy was a liar? I mean, let's put our critical thinking caps on so we can think critically and not just be criticizing and critical. Being critical thinking is not the same as being criticizing and critical. There's a difference. She's talking about the guy mentioning about her blue eyes, but yet she still hadn't talked about Danny. Another thing I think is an important point to point out is that she's saying, oh, a lot of people didn't love him, but not anybody who would hate him. And I think that it's telling that she automatically assumes this is a personal hate crime. It's like she's trying to think of who would hate him to kill him. I feel like if I had been in this situation, I would immediately be thinking of every single random possibility. Was it a robbery? Was it a carjacking? Was he randomly in the wrong place at the wrong time? Was somebody running by? Was it an argument? Was he trying to help somebody? Like, absolutely nothing makes sense in my mind for her to immediately be thinking, nobody hates him. Like, Wendy's hyper-focus on nobody hated him, to me, is very telling, because actually that's not true. She hated him, her mother hated him, her father hated him, her brother hated him. She talked about how much she hated him nonstop, every single day. She told anybody who would listen. And so when you actively hate someone and your whole family hates him, then he's shot to death. And the first thing and the main thing that this person is focused on is who would hate him. Nobody hated him. Nobody hated him, except it's a lie, because you all hated him, and that was clear. So also I wanted to say, if I was in such a tragic, awful situation, I feel that the questions, the things that I would be jumping to, the conclusions that I would be jumping to would all be like, what happened? This is random? Like, I wouldn't be thinking this is a deliberate hit unless I had planned it. How did he get shot? Were there any witnesses? What happened? Was he caught up in someone else's? The crossfire? What on earth? This is crazy. Did anybody call 911? Where is he? What hospital is he at? What's his condition? Nothing. I did also I listened. No, what the fuck was it? Supposedly there was an attempted hit on June 4th, which was the day before Harvey's birthday. I have to look into what happened. Why it didn't work out. I think it was because they said, Sigfredo said they lost track of him. they were following Dan and they lost him. And if that's true, then that would make it even more likely that Wendy had literally said he's going to Premier Gym at this time to this time so that you won't lose in this time. I'd also asked, what night is this party? I might even ask somewhere in the video, what night was the party that she was getting the bourbon for? And she says it right there, the party tonight. At some point in there, and when she's talking about getting the bourbon, she says the party tonight, which means that that party was supposed to be that night. So was it a kid-friendly party? Was it a made-up party? She doesn't mention the bullet bourbon. She just mentions bourbon, but she has a whole conversation about bourbon with the guy because she doesn't know anything about bourbon. Also, why does she keep saying he wouldn't do this to himself? Is she fishing for information about, was he shot in a manner that made it look like it could maybe be a suicide, but he was shot twice. So I was wondering, is she fishing or is she just blabbing? Then she says she was, oh, right. So I think that, yeah, at 14:20 of the interview, she's talking about being with her family for a good long while. And then she starts to get distracted and she's like, and I think that she's remembering all the planning and everything, getting their condo ready for her to move in. And I think that that's distracting her because she's thinking about all that, how she was down there and planning. Weird, she wants to talk to then at the end she says, is there someone I can talk to about what to tell my kids? She wanted to talk to somebody about what to tell her kids, but yet she herself never asked any clarifying questions. Why would you ask, can I speak to someone who could tell me what to tell my kids when you haven't even fucking asked any questions yourself? Then again, she also, she talks about how he was abusive, how he treated her badly, how her brother knew that. And, she claims multiple times that he treated her badly. But then when she's talking to Detective Isom, then she says that, he says, did he owe anybody money? No, he didn't owe anybody money. But this was after she just said he owed her money. He owes me money because he was supposed to give me half of the money for the house. And then months passed and he never paid me. And I put a motion to get him to pay me, and he put a counter motion against mine. Well, maybe because he realized that you stole half $500,000. Oh, by the way, I looked into that ring. That was a 2-carat ring. Oh my fucking God. In my mind, I'm just like not even thinking about it. I'm like, it's a ring. It was a 2-carat ring that she stole that was a family heirloom from a Holocaust survivor. So a 2-carat ring is worth something. Okay? So she stole money from him and things and belongings. That's probably why he didn't just give her the money. Okay? And then when they're talking about, that's why you're here and that's why we're talking. And she's talking about he didn't do anything bad. All he ever did was work and take care of his kids. He didn't owe anybody money. He wasn't into any drugs. He wasn't into anything illegal. This man sounded like a fucking saint. All Dan ever did was take care of his boys and work. Krista Koss asks Wendy at Katie Magbanow's trial in 2019, Dan loved those boys. Those boys were his world. And Wendy says, as well as his work, yes. He didn't owe anybody money. He didn't do anything bad. Nothing. He was a little argumentative. And he could rub people the wrong way. Okay, so you're trying to help solve this murder. Well, the only people who had a beef against him was you, Wendy. You and your mom and your dad and your bro. You had the means to kill him. You had a reason to kill him. You had every motive. She makes it clear as day in this She is the motive. Wendy is the motive. She's the motive. She's the motivation. She is the reason why Dan was killed. And again, any of you who are out here hating on Jeff, I think you're weird. You picked the most innocent guy who literally came and gave all this information that helped to solve the crime, and you want to blame him because he wasn't able to discern before a crime happened that his girlfriend was plotting a murder. Here it is 10 years later, and y'all not even talking about how his girlfriend plotted a murder, but yet you think that he's supposed to have known this? Give me a break. Jeffrey is innocent, and he's a hero, and I think that people who think he should have reported are, y'all are ridiculous in my mind. But anyway, I still love the comments, and I love the engagement, and you know, I do enjoy. I did actually write a long response to that comment of, what was your name? I'm sorry, don't remember, Susan or something. And again, I already said, if you're a therapist and somebody comes and tells you, I'm planning to do this tonight, or when I go home tonight, I'm gonna X myself, I'm gonna X my mate, I'm gonna go X my boss, I'm gonna go home and my guy's gonna X me. Those are things that you report. You don't report someone off the cuff saying something about not an actual crime that's about to be committed. She said, my brother looked into a hitman last summer. What's he supposed to do? He even says it. He even says it to Detective Isom. What was I supposed to do? Come and tell you, hey, my girlfriend said something crazy? And Detective Isom says, no, of course not. You didn't do anything wrong. Okay? So let's get the right criminals and stop trying to make Jeffrey out to be a criminal. He had nothing to gain, absolutely nothing to gain from Dan's demise, and he had everything to lose. So put your thinking caps on, your critical thinking, and think. All right, and enjoy the video. Well, I think Sally actually may have deleted her comment because I went to go see it because I was going to read it so I could add it to this video, which I've decided is not going to be part of my video I'm working on, Wendy is the motive, because it's way too long and this is already getting long. But I wanted to comment on it specifically and it's gone, or maybe I just can't find it, but I found it in my email. Sally says, did anyone find it odd that he went on and on about the pic she chose for her FB, her Facebook page? It is relevant that she changed it shortly before the murder, but he was clearly upset about the pic. He was stressing about the pic itself, saying that she looked like a Victoria's Secret model, and her dad enhanced it, and the kids' faces weren't even shown. That's not accurate. He was excluded. That's not the point. He also mentioned that he was irate because she didn't have a picture of him in her house. Can you show me a link of that? Because I never heard that. So can you make a comment on the video where he says that with the timestamp? Because I never heard that and I'd like to hear it. He admits he was under her spell, but it seems more like obsessive behavior. Okay, that's your opinion. It might be a stretch to say he was involved. It is. But knowing all he did, he could have prevented the hit by going to police like Dipolito's ex did. I don't know who that is. Okay, Mohammed Shehadeh was an informant against Dalia Dipolito, a former escort convicted of trying to hire a hitman to kill her husband in a case that was featured on Cops. Former lover, another Florida woman. What's up over there? All right, so that looks like an interesting case. This was published November 3rd, 2021 in the Tampa Bay Times. The former lover and later informant against a Florida woman convicted of trying to hire a hitman to kill her newlywed husband has died. What? Mohammed Shihadeh, 40, was found dead in his Sebring apartment on October 24th, according to a police report. Oh, crap. Okay, so, but wait, I don't know what this had. Okay, let's see. Dalia Dipolito gained national attention in 2009. I was having a baby. When her arrest was featured on the television show Cops. She was convicted in 2017 to soliciting first-degree murder and sentenced to 16 years in prison. That won't be long enough for Wendy. I'll be pissed if that's what Wendy gets. An earlier conviction had been tossed on appeal, and her second trial ended in a hung jury. Okay. All right. So the investigation against Dipolito began after Shihadeh went to Boynton Beach Police. That reminds me of Sandra Boynton, who used to write, probably still does, write all those kids' books. And that's what I was doing back in 2009, reading kids' books, not thinking about this stuff. All right, let me see. I'll pop it up. This thing has a lot of ads popping up, I guess. So that's Dalia. Okay. Mohammed Shihadeh was the informant, and this is from 2011, shown in pre-taped testimony during Dalia Dipolito's trial at the Palm Beach County Courthouse in West Palm Beach. Former lover and later informant against her, found dead in his Sebring apartment on October 24th, according to a police report. All right, so obviously I don't know anything about this. In order for me to... Okay, wait, so the ex-husband's not dead. Maybe that's why she got a little amount of years, because he didn't actually get killed. Okay. In this July 21st, 2017 file photo, Michael Dipolito testifies during the sentencing hearing for his ex-wife, Dalia Dipolito, in West Palm Beach. She was convicted on her third trial charges. She tried to have her husband killed. Okay, so the investigation against Dipolito began after Shihadeh went to Boynton Beach Police and told detectives Dipolito wanted her then husband, Michael Dipolito, dead. Investigators said. Police had an undercover officer pretend to be a hitman and meet with Dalia Dipolito. A 23-minute video shows Dipolito telling the undercover officer she wanted her husband killed and agreed to pay $7,000. Boynton Beach is located just south of West Palm Beach. Okay, so, all right, thank you for the comment. That's an interesting case. I vaguely kind of have a vague memory of that, of the cop. This lighting is looking bizarre, of that cop car video. However, that is not the same situation. I do appreciate it. You do not have to agree with me in order for me to comment about your comment. Like I said before, I personally appreciate comments like that because I find that the more someone opposes my point of view, not just like, but like actually with points that I can think about, I can comment on, I can analyze, I can contemplate, then that makes my research stronger. That's the whole purpose of a trial, is to argue. The defense argues what they think is true. So let's say that, maybe you're the defense. You're the defense for Wendy, I guess, or you're the prosecution trying to prosecute. I mean, if you're trying to prosecute Jeff, well, you have no case. There was nothing to indict him. Now, you might say that to me about Wendy because she hasn't been indicted, but yet okay, so I am putting on a case for what I believe is evidence of Wendy's guilt, and whether it's circumstantial evidence or actual evidence, like driving to the scene of the crime an hour after it happened, I believe is physical evidence. She was seen physically there by a police officer. That's not circumstantial evidence. She drove to the scene of the crime. How did she know that? Why would she go there? All of her explanations and her reasons do not add up. They don't stack up. They do not hold up to logic. When you look at what she said and then you look at her reasons for why she's saying she went there, there's, like, we talk about doubt, reasonable doubt. Okay, so these are Sally's doubts. I'm going to read your 2 comments. I think you might have deleted them. I tried to respond and I got an error message. So then I started talking on a video and I decided, let me just talk on a video. So the first comment Sally wrote was, as a mental health expert, he, meaning Jeff, because somebody had said Jeff had a duty to report. He was in a legal, like he had a legal duty to report, or he's in legal. And I said, he's not in legal, he's a professor. Jeff is a professor of social work. He's not anybody's therapist, psychiatrist, or, okay, he's not in the position that you think he is, and or what you think someone is supposed to report is not what people are supposed to report. That's why I did this stuff in the beginning of the video. Okay, so Sally says, as a mental health expert, he had a professional obligation to report. The constant jokes were bad enough, but when she, Wendy, told him Charlie had looked into hiring a hitman the previous summer, he turned the conversation back to their relationship because he wanted to talk about them. That was 4 days before Markel was murdered. He had also constantly repeated that he wanted to beat and kill Markel himself. Where? So he wasn't going to report. He had a lot of useful information, all right. A lot of useful information that could have saved Markel's life. This is Sally's opinion. I'm going to comment on it. And then I'm going to scroll down and I'm going to read this other one. Many hours later. All right, my hair. Sally says in her second comment, which I think might be deleted. Maybe that's why I couldn't comment on it, because it was deleted. Did anyone find it odd that he, Jeff, went on and on about the pic she chose for her Facebook page? It is relevant that she changed it shortly before the murder, but he was clearly upset about the pic. He was stressing about the pic itself, saying that she looked like a Victoria's Secret model and her dad enhanced it, and the kids' faces weren't even shown. That's not true. He was excluded. He also mentioned that he was irate because she didn't have a picture of him in her house. He admits he was under her spell. True. But it seems more like obsessive behavior. Pick one. It might be a stretch to say he was involved, but knowing all he did, he could have prevented the hit by, oh, that's right, I said this earlier, by going to police like DiPolito's ex did. I'm gonna comment on it now. As a mental health expert, he had a professional obligation to report. That is not true at all. Look into what mental health experts or what people in general have to report. There is no obligation. There was nothing that was said to him that was a mandatory report. So that is a false belief that you have. That's your opinion, but it's inaccurate. The constant jokes were bad enough. Well, he said she made the joke about the hitman, which is a bad joke, but I think he said it was a couple of times, not constant, so I'm not sure where you're getting that information. Then you're saying, but when she told him Charlie had looked into hiring a hitman the previous summer, he turned the conversation back to their relationship because he wanted to talk about them. That was 4 days before Markel was murdered. There's cars driving by and loud stuff. Okay, so he didn't turn the conversation back to the relationship. It was a conversation about the relationship. He was discussing with her, are you planning, would you leave? Am I going to be pouring 2 years into this thing with you and then for you to leave? And then she told him in confidence, Charlie had looked into hiring a hitman the previous summer, which is true, and it made his stomach flip, and he didn't know what it meant, but he brushed it aside because they were having a conversation about the relationship, okay? So I feel like that Sally is twisting it into something that it isn't to try to paint Jeff in a light that is unfair. Scrolling down to your other comment where you say, he admits he was under her spell, but it seems more like obsessive behavior. So on one hand, you're mad that let's go back up to what you said. That was 4 days before Markel was murdered. So you're mad that Jeffrey wasn't so crazed about what she said that he would literally go to the police prior. Like, do you understand that when something happens after the fact of a thing, how could you have known? If Dan Markel was murdered 4 days after Jeffrey knew, then wouldn't that mean that he didn't know that it was really true? Because, like, he didn't, okay, let's put it this, if Wendy had said to him on Monday or Tuesday, hey, Jeff, my brother Charlie looked into hiring a hitman to kill Dan last summer, and we got him. He's hired. He's actually going to do the murder Friday at 11. Okay. Now you can be pissed. Now you can say, wait a second. Wendy told Jeffrey that Dan was going to be murdered at 11 o'clock on Friday in his car, in his driveway, at his house, and he did nothing? Okay, that's what you should report. If somebody comes and tells you, hey, my ex-husband is going to be murdered on Friday, then go report that. But what was reported to him was Charlie really did look into hiring a hitman last summer. And he said that he was so focused on the conversation about them that either she went to the bathroom and when she comes back, he's like, I had a great time tonight or whatever. Like, well, since that's not going to happen, what about us? So you're mad that this man is focused on himself and her and their relationship, and he's having a conversation with her that he brought up to her about the relationship, and she makes this off-the-cuff, off-the-wall, bizarre comment that's from the past that has no ... and we got this plan, and you wanted him to be able to jump into the future 4 days later to know that, yep, he should have run to the cops. But then the next thing you say is the fact that he was focused on them makes him obsessive. So which one is it, Sally? Was he obsessive, or was he not obsessive enough? Commenting over here, did anyone find it odd that he went on and on about the pic she chose? Well, did you actually listen to what he said? I think it's odd that you're saying all this crap, but you seem to have missed the point. He said for all those months that he knew her, she had one Facebook picture. She was not somebody who, like some ex-friend of mine who was a wacko. This girl, my old friend, ex-friend, she would literally change her Facebook picture every other day. I don't know. It was crazy. I was like, girl, stop taking selfies and changing your picture. That's so crazy. Okay. And I'm somebody who has like had the same photo for like years. Like I have no intention of changing it, okay? So anyway, he said that Wendy had the same picture. It was a nice picture. She just looked nice, you know, like a mom with two kids kind of thing. He said what struck him as odd was that 12 hours before the murder, she changes her nice, pretty Facebook pic to a Photoshop pic of her in a very sexy dress with cleavage out and Photoshopped, I'm adding a little, Photoshopped eyes, Photoshopped teeth. But he did say she's a beautiful woman. Anyone would fall for her, but she's not that beautiful, meaning not that she's not that beautiful. Somebody took that out of context somewhere. Jeff says she's not that beautiful. He means she didn't look like the way that Photoshopped photo was an enhanced photo. But that wasn't what bothered him. That stuff came later. That stuff came after the fact, after the pondering. What bothered him the night that actually, the fact that she changed her photo did spark him to get upset. And he said, well, fuck it. I guess it's really over, because he sees that photo. He says something like 12 hours before. So she changes the photo. He said, like, I'm paraphrasing, that gave him the sense it's truly over. Here she is. She's single. She's like single and ready to mingle. So he's like, fuck it. I'm just leaving. You know, if she's going to be all sexy and single now, I'm just going. Okay. It was after the fact of the murder and that he had time to contemplate that he thought about the picture in a different way. So you mentioned that he was excluded and that it was a Victoria's Secret model. Her dad enhanced it. The kids' faces weren't even shown. That's not true. What he said, the kids' faces were shown. In the photo you see circulating on the internets, they're blurred out now for a kid's privacy, but the Facebook picture had the kids' faces shown. What he said was, after the fact, when he first saw the pic, he felt upset because he's like basically fresh ex seeing his, well, I guess ex-girlfriend posting a new photo, single, ready to mingle, looking all sexified, and he's like, fuck it, I'm out, okay? He goes to his trip, and then comes back finding out that Dan was murdered, and then he goes to the police, he's taken to the police investigate. Okay, so what? So what? They came and got him. I mean, he didn't even know what happened, all right? He goes, and then he talks freely, and then 2 days later he comes back, he talks some more. Then in March, so that was in July, August, September, October, November, December, January, February, March. So 8 months later, March of 2015, he's like, y'all haven't figured this out, and I'm waiting and waiting and waiting. And I've been writing things down, and I've been thinking about things, and I've been going over everything in my head. Now that I've gotten over her, now that I've stopped being under her spell, and I've had time to really think about everything, these are the things that I wanted to bring out to you. And why did he talk about the Victoria's Secret model dad enhanced and the kids' faces? Because he said his friends, he saw the pic and felt like jealous, like, because he's heartbroken that she's posting like this thing, making him feel like, okay, it's over. His friends who had children pointed out, she looks great, but the kids don't look that great. The kids are literally sitting right next to her. His friends with kids said that was kind of narcissistic, that she would put this picture where she looks kind of good, but the kids look kind of, maybe whatever expressions they were making were not as flattering. And that's what he pointed out. That isn't it kind of weird that she had the same photo all these months and months and months, and then the night before she's going to be splashed out on the news because that new Facebook photo became the photo that went out to the media. He's saying she knew her Facebook pic was going to be out in the media, and she on purpose made a choice to change it to this picture where her kids don't look that great, but she looks great. In fact, Photoshop enhanced great, which is kind of creepy. And then his friends with kids pointed out, look, that's kind of narcissistic for her to do. Okay, so he's pointing it out because it's evidence that it's likely that this narcissistic fucking woman changed her Facebook picture so she could have that one splashed out on the media, because she knew the next day Dan was going to be dead. So it seems like you're literally missing all the points, and you're trying to, like, I don't know. I have an ex-friend, a different ex-friend, who she used to get all mad about shit her boyfriend would say, and she'd come and she'd tell me, and she would, like, twist shit. And Sally, I'm sorry. Maybe you deleted your comment because you realized it didn't sound right, or maybe your comment is still there and I just couldn't find it. Okay, but I find it interesting. There's people who will write these extremely long, detailed things, but it's like somehow you got the information, but your comprehension of it, and then the way you, like, sorted it in your mind, and the meaning it came out to mean, it just, I don't get it. I don't, you know, really serious? You think that, like, where did Jeff ever say he was irate that she didn't have pictures of him, and that he was gonna be, I didn't hear that stuff. Like, I watched Jeff and I'm like, he's the last right here. He also constantly repeated that he wanted to beat and KIL Markel himself. What are you talking about? Please show me the link. I need to see this, because I watched that man and I'm like, this guy wouldn't hurt a fly. What are you talking about? And other people are saying, all right, my radiator's loud. I'm gonna go out and get a breath of cold air to finish this video and then do an intro. But look, I don't know, did we watch the same video? Did we watch the same person? Because, well, since this is not gonna go in with the other video because it's gonna be too long, I'll repeat that part of what I said. Like, people are talking about, oh, they think that Wendy was trying to get Jeff to do it. Did you spend 5 minutes listening to Jeffrey Lacasse? That man sounds like the most gentle, most kindest. Like, what are you talking about? What are you actually talking about? You think that she was trying to get him to do it? That doesn't make any sense at all, unless she was gonna CIA mindfuck him. That's what I say in the other video. Unless she was going to, like, psychologically destroy him and turn him into some kind of, like, psychopathic rage. But I don't know, Sally. I don't know what you're talking about. I didn't see anything at all about him saying he was constantly saying he wanted to BEAT and KIL him. We saw something completely different, because I never saw that. I never heard that. So maybe it's on testimony. Maybe he said it on the stand. Maybe he said it on a video I didn't see. So if I'm wrong, I will admit that I'm wrong. Part of doing research is to, you know, when people say this and that and the other thing, I don't just say, fuck you, that's stupid. I say, well, let me look into it. Let me see. Let me see if that makes sense. Let me see if that rings true. Let me see if that's accurate. Show me the evidence, and I will actually consider it. That's what investigations are about. But so far, the investigations that I've done have shown to me that Jeffrey Lacasse is a hero. He's an honest and wonderful person. Thank God for Jeffrey Lacasse. He will be an amazing witness in Wendy's trial and will help send her to jail forever, I believe. And again, I'm giving it till January 6th of 2025, and if by then she hasn't been arrested, then then fuck it. I'm gonna move on. I mean, by then I might have already moved on. And I believe Scorpio 777, Marlene, I think you were the other one who had a lot of issues with Jeffrey Lacoste. So thank you guys. Thank you, Sally and Marlene, for your opinions that helped me to do more research. And no ill will, only love. Keep coming back, keep commenting. And that other guy, Tim, we had like an interesting exchange, but you also kind of helped me to confirm more thoughts, like when the evidence points to certain things, there it is, and you can try to sort of put it in the salad spinner and make it something else, but just like I believe Wendy tried to salad spin Jeff into a murderer, it didn't stick, because guess what? He's not. So, I do believe that there was some actual political weight helping the Adelsons that did not help Sigfredo and Luis. And now the Adelson protection has left. Willie Meggs is gone. Jack Campbell and Patrick Sanford and Georgia Kappelman and Sarah, I said her name the other day. They're gonna do their job. I do believe it. All right, look out for the other video. I'm working on it. I'll be posting that later in the week, I'm sure.